Hook, you ever have one of those days when the people trying to ruin your peace don't realize you're the one they're calling for help? Yeah. That was me. The day my own HOA called 911 on me, out on my own land, trying to kick me off the lake I built with my bare hands. They didn't know the 911 line went straight to my office. And that day, I didn't just answer the call. I made sure they'd never forget it. I still remember the smell of wet cedar and diesel that morning. The smell of work, of pride, of everything I'd earned. My ranch stretched over 60 acres of rolling Texas land, golden under the dawn light. At the center lay my heart, the lake. I'd dug it myself 15 years ago, sweating through summer after summer, shaping it with my old backhoe and hands that refused to quit. That lake wasn't just water. It was memory. It was where my late wife, Rachel, used to sit with her coffee at sunrise. Her laughter used to echo off the surface. I could almost still hear it, soft, musical, like the ripples lapping the shore. I kept it private for years after she passed. Just me, the water, and silence. But when the developers came, silence was the first thing they took. The city expanded, roads pushed closer, and soon enough, luxury ranch estates. Sign appeared down the road. The HOA came next. The Homeowners Association, with their polished trucks, glossy pamphlets, and community standards. They said they wanted to protect property values. What they really wanted was control. At first, I didn't mind. I paid my dues, trimmed my fences, even waved to the newcomers who built their mansions across the road. But when they started claiming my lake was community property, I knew trouble was coming. That morning, I took my old aluminum boat out like I'd done every Sunday for years. The water shimmered under the sun, still and glassy. I cast my line and waited, breathing deep. For a while, I felt peace again. Then came the sound I dreaded most. The whine of an ATV, and the crunch of tires on gravel. 3 board members from the HOA came barreling up in matching windbreakers, their mirrored sunglasses flashing like warning lights. Leading them was Mr. Kent, the HOA president, the kind of man who measured worth in squatage and thought respect came with a clipboard. "Mr. Callahan," he barked across the lake. "You're trespassing on community property." I almost laughed. "Community property? You mean my lake?" He waved a printed map. "According to the latest survey, this falls under shared recreational use. You can't be out there without HOA approval." "Son?" I said, still calm. "I was fishing here before your GPS even had a signal." That's when he made the mistake. He pulled out his phone, smirking. "If you don't comply, I'll call 911. You'll be removed for trespassing." Now, I could have argued. I could have shouted. But instead, I smiled. The kind of slow grin that comes when you know something they don't. Because what Kent didn't know was that I wasn't just a ranch owner. I was also the county's emergency dispatch director. I'd been running 911 operations for over 20 years. He pressed call. And a minute later, my desk phone rang, inside my own office cabin at the edge of the ranch. My deputy's voice came through, confused.
"Oh,
"Boss, we got a call from your HOA. They're trying to report you." I chuckled. "Patch it through. I'll take it." The line clicked, and I heard Kent's voice, sharp and self-righteous. "Yes, this is Kent Miller, HOA president of Lakeview Estates. There's a man illegally on the lake property." "Good morning, Kent," I interrupted, my voice steady and calm. "This is 911 dispatch. You're speaking to Director Callahan." Silence. Then, a stutter. "Wait, what?" "That's right. The man you're reporting. That's me, on my lake, on my land. So tell me, Kent, how can I assist you today?" You could have heard a pin drop. I let him stew in that silence before speaking again. "Kent, I built that lake. I've got every deed, survey, and record since the first shovel of dirt. You crossed a line today. And not just a property one." His voice cracked. We were just enforcing regulations." "No," I said, reeling in my line. "You were enforcing ego." The call ended. But something else began that day. A fight for what mattered most, not just land, but legacy. And I wasn't backing down this time. When I hung up that call, I just sat there for a while, staring across the lake. The water was still, peaceful, but inside I wasn't. You spend a lifetime building something, brick by brick, dollar by dollar, dream by dream. And one day a few people with paperwork think they can erase it all. That's what hurt most. Not the insult, not the arrogance, but the idea that people could look at what you built, your memories, your pain, your love, and call it theirs because it looked nice on a map. That afternoon, I decided I wasn't going to let Rachel's lake, our lake, become another trophy for people who'd never worked a day of sweat for it. So I went to work. The next morning, I walked into the county records office. The clerk there, Betty, she'd worked with me for 20 years, looked up and smiled. "Morning, Callahan. You look like a storm's brewin'." "Betty," I said, setting a thick folder on her desk. "Need certified copies of every survey, permit, and water right tied to my ranch. Going back 15 years. She whistled low. "OA trouble. Big time." She nodded and went to work. An hour later, I had everything I needed, proof that the lake was fully contained within my private property, and the HOA had no legal claim to it whatsoever. But I didn't stop there. I drove to the next county meeting, where the same HOA board was scheduled to propose community access to the lake as a new amenity. They thought they'd sneak it in under shared resources. When I walked into that chamber, heads turned. Kent's smile faded faster than a puddle in August. "Mr. Callahan," the chairwoman said politely, "weren't expecting you." "Didn't think you would," I said, taking the microphone. "But if y'all are discussing my land, I figured I ought to be here." I placed my stack of documents on the table, the sound echoing like a gavel. "This lake you're calling a community property?" "It's not. It's part of my ranch, built on my soil, with my money, under permits approved before half your homes were even built. And I've got every record to prove it." I looked right at Kent. "You trespassed on my land. You called 901 to have me removed from my own property. You didn't realize the call came to my office. You didn't even bother to check the law before swinging your clipboard around." The room was silent. Even the air conditioner seemed to pause. I continued, my voice steady. "You see, gentlemen, rules are meant to protect community, not to control it. There's a difference between maintaining peace and abusing power." I turned to the board members. People I'd seen at the feed store, at church, around town. What can build fences high enough to divide us or bridges strong enough to connect us? But we can't do both. Kent's jaw tightened. "You're making this personal, Callahan." "It is personal," I said quietly. "That lake is my wife's memory. It's her reflection in the water every sunrise. You call that a regulation? I call it sacred." Someone in the back clapped. Then another. The room filled with applause that grew like a summer storm. The board chair stood, cleared her throat, and said, "Mr. Callahan, after reviewing your evidence and your testimony, this board officially recognizes the lake as private property. The HOA will have no jurisdiction or claim over it." Kent tried to speak again, but the gavel dropped. It was over. That night, I walked back down to the lake. The sky was painted with stars, and the water glowed like glass. I set out my old fishing chair, the same one Rachel used to sit in, and just watched the moon ripple on the surface. Then, something unexpected happened. I saw headlights in the distance, a truck pulling up. Out stepped Kent, holding his hat in his hands. He looked nervous. "Didn't mean to intrude," he said quietly. "Just wanted to apologize. I got too wrapped up in titles and rules. Forgot what this place meant to you." I studied him for a long moment. He wasn't the arrogant man from before. Just another soul who'd lost sight of what matters. I nodded toward the other chair. "Sit. Water's calm tonight." He hesitated, then sat beside me. For a while we just listened to the crickets. Then, he said, You really built this all yourself?" "Every inch," I said softly. "Took 5 years. Back then, I was younger and a whole lot dumber. But Rachel, she believed in it. She saw what it could be before I ever did." He nodded, his voice low. "Must have been a good woman. The best." We sat there in silence again. Two men who finally understood something deeper than property lines. As the night grew quiet, I realized something. Winning wasn't about humiliating anyone. It was about reminding them that land is more than dirt. It's story, sweat, and love. And community isn't about control. It's about respect. Before Kent left, he said, "Maybe we can work on something. A partnership. Not to own your lake, but to learn from it. Maybe host a memorial fishing day or a charity event. Something that honors her." For the first time in years, I felt a tear fall that didn't come from pain. "That'd be all right, Kent. That'd be real all right." When I tell people now about that day, the day the HOA called 911 on me, they always laugh at the irony. But what they don't see is what came after. How an argument turned into understanding. How a lake built by grief became a bridge of peace. And every morning since, when I walk down to that water and see the sunrise, I whisper, "We did it, Rachel. We kept it ours. But more than that, we kept it human."